It's time for your SportsEdge.com Sideline Report with Todd Griffin. Talking sports and more here on 1580, 103.3 WPKY and worldwide at WPKYOnline.com. Here's your host, Todd Griffin.
Good morning, everyone. It's another Sideline Report from 1035 West Main Street in Princeton. Todd Griffin in the studio this morning, and got a surprise for everyone. Chris George joining us on the phone to start off the show this morning. And Chris, how is everything going in Bowling Green this morning?
It's cold, Todd.
Well, I know you like the cold, too.
Yeah, we're such good friends, and I just can't wait for it to be cold. As you just saw, I walked with a purpose from the parking lot to my car.
I bet you did.
I never walk with a purpose.
Well, some big things going on in Bowling Green. The Western Kentucky Hilltopper basketball team, a little up and down this season, but, man, some big wins for that team this season.
Yeah, Todd, the Toppers are getting up a lot of highs and a lot of lows. They're a young team is what they are, but are they fun to watch. I know everybody in Western Kentucky is talking about Ja, and nationally ESPN loves everything Zion. They show every dunk he has, but I tell you, we've got our own guy right here in Bowling Green that brings some highlight reel dunks. I'd love to see Josh Anderson in a dunk contest with those other two guys, because Josh brings a highlight dunk every night as well.
Well, we're right in the middle of college basketball season. Everything's starting to heat up, and of course, I've always mentioned that my dream Final Four would be Kentucky, Louisville, Western, and Murray State, and wouldn't that be sweet? I mean, really? But
no, it's not for me.
Well, I know one of those teams you wouldn't like, but I think it would be great for the Commonwealth to have all those teams make the Final Four. I know it's a long shot, probably not realistic, but I do like the chances of everybody getting into the NCAA tournament this year and maybe having a shot, to do something.
Well, the Toppers are going to have a tough time getting in. They really are. They've got great wins, but, based on the RPI and Ken Palm and all the other metrics that they use, they've got 3 or 4 terrible losses. I really think they're going to have to win the conference to have any shot. And going into the season, if you asked me, I said, if we could pick up the wins we picked up and took care of business where we should have, that we'd have been in the conversation maybe for an at-large. But they're going to have to win the conference. And Conference USA, while a one-bid likely to be a one-bid league is still a tough conference. Marshall, they have to come out and hit 33s. And it's just a tough league. But I think come tournament time, they'll be a tough out of the Conference USA tournament. But I think all 4 of them could. Louisville is ahead of schedule. And, Murray's the team is kind of going to be this year's Loyola, Chicago, Nevada, the team nobody wants to see.
Well, Murray State's a lot like Western Kentucky, though. Despite just an outstanding season and that premier player that everybody wants to see, they're going to have to win the OVC tournament more than likely, because it's tough to see the OVC getting an extra team in.
Yeah. But I'd love to see them get bracketed at some place with an opportunity to play a Kentucky or Louisville, because I think it would, well, more so Louisville, because I think they could beat them, and that would make me happy.
Well, the NCAA selection committee, if you have a Murray State in there, or if Western Kentucky gets in, they're going to be somewhere around a Louisville or a Kentucky. They like to play those games with the brackets.
Yes, they do.
Well, turning to football, and I know, football season will be here before we know it, and some new formats installed for the playoffs for high school football this year, at least for right now. I think the coaches are trying to work on that, and Caldwell County head coach David Barnes is scheduled to be in a little bit later, and we'll talk to him about that some too. But, Chris, we're going back to playing teams within your own district the first 2 rounds, it looks like. And for Caldwell County, that probably means seeing Mayfield a little earlier than we would have in the old setup.
Yeah, I read that last week, Todd, and I meant to message you and Gary to start a text conversation about it. And I just think the worst. I mean, once again, and I'm getting ready. I hope I don't get you in trouble, but I'm getting ready to be critical of KHSAA. Once again, KHSAA attempts to ruin high school athletics in Kentucky with their horrible decision-making about postseason. I mean, this is just as bad as what they've done to baseball and softball. This is worse.
Yeah, I don't get the rationale, and the big thing to me with the coaches that I talked to is that none of them knew this was coming. You know, this was done completely without any coach's input, and apparently none of them like it. Well, I won't say none of them, but from the ones I've talked to, most of them really are not happy with it.
Well, if you're Mayfield, you're South Warren, you're Bowling Green, you're going to love it because it really doesn't change your reality.
Right.
When you're 3 years ago or 4 years ago at Caldwell, I would have told you, so what? I don't really care because, we were the king of the hill, and it didn't really bother me. Wouldn't have really bothered me, but because when you're on the top and you're looking down, it's so what? It saves us from having to deal with a team we don't really know. But when you're the 2-3s, it does matter when that means you got to play a Mayfield a week earlier than you intended to play them. It's just not good. And like I said, I know I was a little bit hypocritical what I just said, but 2 or 3 years ago I wouldn't have cared, and I care now. But also I do care about the high school athletics and the experience. Many players that state tournament or that postseason experience is the only experience they'll ever get in a big tournament setting. And KHSAA, in the matter of about the last 6 months, has ruined baseball by going to whatever this crazy format they're getting ready to try. I think what they've done in the last year to softball is just a travesty of justice. Softball was special for those girls in that all 16 teams got to go. It was a double elimination tournament. And I don't see why you have to go down to 8 teams. And I read the tweet last week. We want a stadium experience and not a lawn chair experience. But maybe those girls want a lawn chair experience because that's what they like.
Yeah, I could almost see going to single elimination, but I really wish all 16 regional champions could go to the state tournament. That's kind of what makes winning that regional championship so special, is that you get to go to state, and now you've kind of taken that away from everybody.
I mean, around here, in a lot of ways for our teams, the regional championship game was more important than the first game of the state championship, because I watched in the 4th region, watch those boys celebrate like they won the World Series. I mean, dog pile on the mound, just an intense atmosphere, because you knew winning that game meant that in a couple of days you were on the bus to Lexington with a parade out of town and a lot of fanfare. And like you said, now you've taken that away from them, because what you do 2 or 3 days later, you're going to go down the road to Owensboro and get on the bus and go to Owensboro and play a sectional game. You hurt. The student athlete has been hurt by these decisions because you impacted their memories and their experience. And I just think it's awful. And the football is as bad as baseball and softball is. The decisions are, football is worse.
We're talking with Chris George, joining us from Bowling Green this morning. We need to get to a timeout here on the Sideline Report, but we'll be right back on 1580, 103.3 WPKY.
Get spruced up with quality mulch from Bashir Sawmill on Dawson Road in Princeton. We all know that buying mulch by the truckload saves money, and it's only $25 per load for dark natural mulch at Bashir Sawmill on Dawson Road, 1/2 mile past City County Park. Bashir Sawmill also buys standing timber and timberland. Give them a call today, 270-365-2330. That's Bashir Sawmill, family owned and operated in Princeton for over 50 years.
Since 1978, Perry's Floors & More has been selling, installing, and servicing homeowners throughout Western Kentucky with quality flooring and workmanship. Perry's Floors & More carries luxury vinyl plank and luxury vinyl tile. carpet, window treatments, and more. Brands like Mannington, Shaw, Tarkett, Beaulieu, and Flexitech. Quality brands, excellent customer service, combined with 40 years experience is why they say you can walk on our reputation. See Bill and Lucy at Perry's Floors and More, 127 West Market Street, Princeton.
When you need a place for your pup to stay while you're away, take them to Pet Grooming and Boarding by David Rogers. David is pleased to announce their completion of Phase 2 of their doggy resorts with full amenities, doggy beds, plus all the playtime a puppy could want. David is the only AKC certified groomer in the area with over 30 years experience. Limited spots for doggy daycare available, so call now to reserve a spot for vacation or spring break. No matter if they're big or small, Pet Grooming by David loves them all.
Raider Auction Company is owned and operated by Delbert Raider. Delbert has been in the agricultural field for over 40 years and is well known for his knowledge of used equipment. Raider Auction holds 4 consignment auctions a year, and they buy and sell equipment on a daily basis. If you're looking for a piece of equipment, they'll do their best to locate it, and financing is available. Contact Delbert Raider at 270-881-2610 or Amy Ezel at 270-604-2880 for all your used equipment needs. Raider Auction Company, Skyline Drive.
The Sideline Report rolls on 1580 103.3 WPKY and online at WPKYonline.com. Want to tell you about Dave's Deal of the Week at U-Ride in Princeton. It's a 2011 Gold GMC Acadia with third row seating. See Dave for details at U-Ride in Princeton. That's U-Ride 310 Marion Road in Princeton. Telephone 270-365-3215. Chris George is joining us on the phone this morning from Bowling Green, and again, a lot of stuff going on in the sports world. Chris, let's talk a little bit about the NFL playoffs. What are your thoughts on the Super Bowl 53 coming up?
Well, Todd, you know, I am still kind of hung up on, I was watching, I didn't get to watch the games at home this weekend, but I was out of town and was watching them on a big screen TV, walking through at a restaurant, and it was that Saints-Rams game. Just I can't get into the Super Bowl right now just because of the travesty of justice that happened to the Saints.
So you're saying that the pass was not uncatchable, then, is what you're saying?
Oh, is that what they're saying now?
No, that's what I've been saying. That's
okay.
Me. You know, as a Rams fan, I'm like, hey, it looked good to me. But everybody else apparently has a different view.
Yes, I know at one point I'd read on Twitter, you know, the source of all news, Twitter, that the official had been overheard saying he thought it may have been tipped, and that's why he didn't call anything.
Nobody really signaled that, though.
Right. And what I said to someone was, all of them are mic'd up. He could have thrown the flag and picked the flag up if somebody told him it was tipped. That to me is just a terrible no call. And while we don't know if the Saints would have fumbled on the next play, but still, you can't determine the game. You've got to make that flag. That was DPI, helmet to helmet, unnecessary roughness. Pick any of about 4 things you want. You got to call something.
Yeah, it did look like it was, you know, a foul, at least one, maybe multiple fouls. But if you're a conspiracy theorist, you know, and we like to do that sometimes here on the show.
Yes, we do.
You know, the Los Angeles Rams, or Stan Kroenke, the owner, who took his team from St. Louis, and I'm still bitter about it, but that's okay. I'm still a Rams fan, but, you know, the Rams are building a $2 billion plus facility out in Los Angeles where it's a ridiculously grand stadium. There's a TV center, shopping malls, concert halls, all those things. However, you know, fan attendance and fan interest in Los Angeles is not really what it was when the Rams were there before. Or maybe it is. Maybe that's why the Rams moved to St. Louis to begin with. But if you're the NFL and you want to drum up some support for your new star franchise, which the Rams, with all the money, I mean, that's why they were allowed to move, even though it broke all the NFL guidelines for relocation. Well, it helps to have the Rams in the Super Bowl, getting a lot of attention for the next 2 weeks, and maybe building that fan base out there that will come and spend all their money at their new megaplex.
Well, see, me as well, love a good conspiracy. My conspiracy was they were heading toward Goff, Mahomes, Goff takes down Breeze, Mahomes takes down Brady, and they're the next great quarterbacks in the big game. And then, well, Brady and Belichick made sure that didn't happen.
Well, see, I wanted to see that Rams-Chiefs game too, and that's kind of what I was looking for. I mean, the Patriots, man, what can you say? Those guys just keep winning. But, again, if you're a conspiracy theorist here and you go back and you look at the second half of that Patriots game, the Patriots needed 3 or 4 calls to pull that thing out, and it seemed like they got every call they needed to pull it. I mean, they still made some plays, not taking anything away, but, again, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you know, you can find some things to pick at in that game too.
Well, you know, it always seems that things seem to go Belichick and Brady's way.
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen two luckier individuals that they seem to get the ball right. But then, you know, you look at some of the plays. How many third downs in a row did they convert on that one drive? I mean, it was just like incomplete pass. Julian Edelman gets open.
Right.
So I don't know. I would have liked to have seen that play that foul called and see how it ended. But you know, at the same time, all the people online hollering replay the game or pick the game up where call the foul and pick the game up there. You can't do that. That's not how athletics works.
Right. I mean, a winner was determined and the game's over and you just have to kind of move on. But it looks to me like this Super Bowl is kind of shaping up to be, you know, the old guard versus the new. And certainly the Patriots are that old guard. They've been there time and time and time again. And, again, the Rams are being positioned as that new mega team, I think. You know, I think the NFL is kind of pushing them as, you know, I don't want to call them America's team because the Cowboys fans will get on me, but that it looks like the NFL is really setting the Rams up for that.
Well, you know, they're fun to watch, and Sean McVay is an offensive genius. I love to sit and just watch and diagnose plays that they run because he does so many unique things. And like I said, just so fun to watch them play. And what he has done as of what they've done the last month with bringing in C.J. Anderson to spell Gurley, almost letting C.J. Anderson do the heavy lifting, and then you bring in a fresh Gurley. Oh, my God. How do you stop it?
Yeah, they've got a lot of weapons, and again, they set that team up. The Rams, I think, when they moved back to Los Angeles, opened up some money to get some free agents and make that team better. So it's a pretty good football team. And again, though, the Patriots and Rams, it's going to be an interesting matchup. It's going to be interesting to see who does what. I think the Rams probably want to try to run the football with Brady. It seems like the Patriots, every time they get in trouble, you know, he's able to make a pass and get them out of trouble.
Well, and I also think look for a lot of points.
That'll be interesting. That's kind of why I was wanting that Rams-Chiefs 2 game because of the game they played earlier this season. But it'll be interesting to see how the Patriots and the Rams both approach the Super Bowl coming up in Atlanta.
And you know, Atlanta Falcon fans were happy that things went badly for the New Orleans Saints.
Oh, yeah, they didn't want to see the Saints in Atlanta to play in that Super Bowl. Well, I want to ask you about the Kentucky Wildcats.
On the local sports scene?
Well, we've got a big doubleheader coming up tonight, Caldwell County and Lyon County out here at the Community Activities Building. That's going to be a big deal. I did want to get your thoughts on the Kentucky Wildcats real quick while I've got you. The Cats up to number 8 in the polls, and you know, just a couple of weeks ago we were wondering, can they get a 4-seed or a 5-seed? And now it's looking like they're in good shape for like a number 2 seed or something.
They're getting better. This team for me, Todd, is hard to watch at times. Sometimes it's not a lot of pleasure in watching the way they play the game. But I find pleasure in watching the way Ashton Higgins plays the game. I was telling one of my colleagues that's a UK fan, I said, I love a defensive point guard that just gets up in the ball handler and just really gets in. And Ashton Higgins is that guy. He's just got a lot of dog in him, and he gets after it, and I think he is the reason we're seeing this version of the Cats emerge, because it starts with him. And I'm here to tell you, if it ever clicks for E.J. Montgomery or Nick Richards to give him as a perimeter defender, a rim protector behind him that's going to allow him to take a few more risks on defense to get steals, watch out.
Going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out. Again, Kentucky up to number 8 in the polls, and could have a lot of rooting interest in the NCAA tournament this year with maybe Murray State getting there. Again, we talked maybe Western Kentucky can win the tournament, get there. The Lipscomb Bisons and Eli Pepper, that would be fun. They got there last year, so a lot of good things to look forward to in basketball.
Yeah. You talk about Kentucky, and, they came into this tough stretch, and many of the, I guess they're not talking heads on Twitter, I guess typing fingers with opinions on college basketball and on Twitter were saying, they'd be lucky to come out of the Auburn, what was it? It was Auburn, Mississippi State, Kansas, and who was the other one? Georgia, that 4-game stretch, 2 on the road, 2 at home. They'll be lucky to come out of it 1-3. They're going to come out of it likely 4. They're definitely coming out of it 3-1 and maybe 4-0. This team is making moves. And
could be a big game for seeding purposes coming up on Saturday against Kansas. That's a nice win to have on your resume if you can pick up that one.
People who left them for dead and 5-6 seed talk, they don't realize that they are 2 baskets, 1 in each game, and 2 bad calls from still only having the Duke loss that I don't want to talk about, because they got a bad call at Madison Square Garden. Keldon Johnson was fouled on his 3-point attempt to win the game. Not to mention that should have been a flagrant one, that game on the guy that elbowed P.J. Washington in the throat, but apparently it was just a common foul. And then you go to the Auburn game, and there were some questionable calls that I thought let Auburn didn't get Kentucky to the foul line as much as it should have been. And, you look at that, they're 2 baskets away from being a 1-loss, 2 baskets, 3 points away from being a 1-loss team instead of a 3-loss team. And there were people saying they may be a 6 seed. Now, they got another tough stretch coming, though.
Right. Looking pretty good right now. Well, Chris, I appreciate you coming on the air this morning and joining me last minute, but,
anytime, Todd, anytime.
Able to get some good talk in and get an update from Bowling Green, and we always appreciate that. And, have a great day up there and pull the Hilltoppers through.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right, thanks, Chris. That's Chris George joining us this morning from Bowling Green. Caldwell County football head coach David Barnes has joined us in the studios, and we'll be talking to him as the Sideline Report continues here on 1580, 103.3 WPKY.
Here's your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast.
There is a chance of flurries today with increasing clouds throughout the day and a high of 37. Cloudy overnight with an overnight low around 11. Sunny skies tomorrow, but the high's only going to be 25. Mostly cloudy Friday night with an overnight low of 22. There's a chance of rain and snow on Saturday with a high of 38. A slight chance of rain and snow continues Saturday night with a low around 27. And rain and snow expected on Sunday with a high of 43. Flurries expected today, high of 37.
Your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast is brought to you by Treasures Remembered.
All the hype of the holidays, and in a flash, it's gone. But what doesn't leave in any hurry are the extra bills and expenses you may have tallied up this season. If the financial excess of the holiday season has you worried, visit ABC Finance. Start the year in control of your finances with the help of ABC Finance. We offer loans from $500 to $12,000, plus no payment until February. Apply online at abcfinanceonline.com or stop by our locations on Fort Campbell Boulevard in Hopkinsville and the Princeton Plaza in Princeton. All the hype of the holidays, and in a flash, it's gone. But what doesn't leave in any hurry are the extra bills and expenses you may have tallied up this season. If the financial excess of the holiday season has you worried, visit ABC Finance. Start the year in control of your finances with the help of ABC Finance. We offer loans from $500 to $12,000, plus no payment until February. Apply online at abcfinanceonline.com or stop by our locations on Fort Campbell Boulevard in Hopkinsville and the Princeton Plaza in Princeton.
The Sideline Report continues on a busy Thursday of sports. If you're a Murray State Racer fan, the Racers are at home tonight, and understand that's just about a sellout. Belmont in town. You can watch that game on ESPNU tonight at 8 o'clock. The Racers are 15-2 on the season. Eli Pepper and the Lipscomb Bisons are at home tonight hosting Florida Gulf Coast. FGCU has won the regular season title in the A-Sun the last 2 years. Lipscomb beat them last year in the championship game of the tournament to go to the NCAA tournament. Lipscomb 14-4, off to their best start since the 1999-2000 season, and Eli Pepper having a big senior year up there. Just missed his fourth double-double the other night with 9 points and 11 rebounds, and the Bisons 86-57 win over Kennesaw State. So you can watch the Bisons on ESPN Plus tonight. That game is at 6:30. Caldwell County football coach David Barnes joins us in the studio, and Coach, a lot of stuff going on. A big doubleheader tonight out at the Cab Gym.
Yeah, we got Lyon County coming in tonight, and we're coming off a big win with the boys and the girls from Tuesday night, so we're looking forward to that.
And Lyon County's team's also a couple of big wins down at Livingston the other night, so everybody coming in on a roll of some sort. And the boys' game, the Tigers are 12-7 on the season. The Lions are 13-7. Lyon County got the Tigers down there earlier this year, so the Tigers trying to avenge a loss there, and then some games coming up with Hopkins Central and Madisonville that they'll be looking to try to draw even after losing earlier this year.
Yeah, 2 big district games.
Going back to football, want to talk to you about the new playoff format, and well, first of all, just your general thoughts on going back to playing teams inside your own district.
I'm on the football advisory, and we met 2 weeks ago. And normally we all meet in Lexington, but this time we did it on a computer. And so I was sitting in my office, and some of the coaches are on the committee. Went to Lexington, and the big emphasis that they was talking about the playoff system and how. And we knew Mr. Taggett let us know real quick in the meeting that there will be some changes in the playoffs this coming up year, and I don't think any of us really thought it was going to be going back to playing within the districts like we used to do back a few years back. I will say this, that of the coaches that are on the advisory, none of us were for or were really for going to that format. I think the driving force there was the Board of Control, which the KHSAA, a lot of some of those guys, the superintendents and people on that board, were for some time now have wanted to change especially the first round, because of some of the games getting out of hand, and then the travel. Those were the 2 biggest things brought up on changing that, and so. As we came out of that meeting, I think some of the coaches in the state probably thought that we, as the advisory, made that change. That is not the way that happened. Jim McKee was very adamant about not going back to that deal, and as Chuck Smith at Boyle County. So I don't think there are too many coaches around the state that are ready for that.
Well, just talking to a few coaches, it seemed like it kind of caught everybody off guard that this change was coming. Like, the KHSA just kind of made that change without really consulting the coaches a whole lot.
It was a thing where I don't know that there was a lot of discussion going into it about going, because if it had, I think it may have been a little bit different. In our cases, back when we were looking at whether we were going to stay 2A or 3A. Had we known that this was a possibility of going and playing within the district, we might have stayed 3A. We might have been better off staying 3A. And so that part of it wasn't real good. I know that as of last week, a lot of Clay Clevenger at Danville, he's our president of our Kentucky Football Coaches Association. He and Jimmy Reed were supposed to meet with Julian yesterday to see if they could maybe get this thing changed. So there may be, on down the road, there may be some changes. Hopefully it'll happen.
right now teams are looking at playing first 2 rounds in their own district, and then it really gets fun because after that, for the 3rd and 4th rounds, there's a ratings percentage index that's going to determine who gets to go where and what team they get to play, and that's going to be interesting because if you look at the way that's set up, it's a strength of schedule thing, and this gets back to the coaches not knowing ahead of time about the changes because if you knew you were going to be using a system that rewards you for a tough schedule, you're going to schedule a little tougher.
Yeah, unfortunately, our schedule should help us. But another thing you would have done is probably looked at your district games a little bit closer, how they were lined up, and the bottom line is, if you remember back, I guess is when Will was playing. We played Webster County at the end of the year, turned around and played them in the 2nd round of playoffs. Within the 2-week turnaround, you're playing each other. Well, this with the way it's set up now, we were talking about Mayfield, Murray, us, and you're talking about playing Mayfield possibly the 2nd round,
right?
And you say, well, you got to play them anyway, but if you're playing out of district, you wouldn't have to do that.
Right. You'd probably see them about the 3rd round. What was the regional championship, but the way it looks to me, there won't really be a regional championship because once you get to the 3rd round, they're going to use that RPI to seed teams, and it just seems unnecessarily confusing to me.
There are a lot. I think there are like 30-some states that are using the RPI, but we don't know as coaches. We don't know a whole lot about how that'll work. And then again, when you start seeding it, there's at some point you're going to have to travel. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or about that. You're going to have to travel, and I just don't really understand why we just can't stay with the way it was. When we went to 6 classes in high school in Kentucky, that's probably has caused some problems. There's been a push for some time to go back to 4, but every time they do a survey, everybody wants the survey comes out to stay six classes. So I don't know what the fix is.
Well, the KHSAA seems to have trouble determining what the most important thing is. Is it more classes? Is it less travel? Would it be less teams in the playoffs? Because it seems like a lot is made over the number 4 seeds and the number 1 seeds and a lot of lopsided games. But I think you're going to end up with lopsided games throughout the playoffs, no matter how you seed the teams at some point.
I agree, and I don't know. I know if you're at this end of the state and you have to go Louisville the 1st round, and I understand that. And how you fix it, I don't know, but I don't think the fix is having to play the first or 2 rounds within your district.
Well, as you said, the coaches have met. Is there anything that the coaches can do as far as getting that changed this year, or is it set for this fall, or what's the situation?
Well, like I said, our Coaches Association, Clay Clevenger, the president, and Jimmy Reed are supposed to be meeting with Julian Tackett, and hopefully there will be some things happen out of that meeting. I have not heard what come out of that meeting yesterday, if they met yesterday or not.
But again, those changes are expected to go into effect this season, this fall,
yes.
Right now. And you mentioned another change that might be coming, and that's a 40-second play clock as opposed to a 25-second play clock.
I think that's going to happen. And, if you go back to our game against LaRue County, when a team is allowed to let their quarterback come to the sideline and get back almost to the huddle and call, that's an advantage to them on running on the clock, especially if they're a running football team. That rule change will help especially help us, because it's going to that ball goes into play right now. They don't, that referee doesn't have that leeway that he's had in the past, and I think it's a needed change. And the thing we'll have to do is our clocks. We'll have to get them, or something we'll have to do with them to get them to a 40-second clock. But if you look around the state, there are a lot of schools that don't have clocks.
Right.
So, I think Julian's doing a survey on that to see how many schools do have clocks, how many do not have clocks.
Right now, the 25-second play clock does not start until the officials mark the ball ready for play, and that's at their discretion.
Yeah.
So sometimes 20 or 30 seconds can pass, it seems like, before the ball even gets marked ready for play for the 25-second clock to start. With a 40-second play clock, that starts when the preceding play ends.
That's right.
It just starts running. So it's 40 seconds from the time the ball's marked down on the previous play.
Yeah, that'll make it more, it's like Julian said at the meeting. He said there's a crew in Lexington that, the game's going to be run a real fast game because they're going to get the ball set, and there's another guy that's the crew chief. He does it totally different. This will make it more on the same level.
It'll be a lot more consistent that way. It's weird, though, because people think 25 seconds is smaller than 40 seconds, but with the clock starting at 40 seconds right after the previous play, that actually helps a team that wants to play fast because the officials have to get the ball marked and the play clock starts rolling and you got to get going. And that should help you guys.
And, it was like when we were playing Murray High, where they played in they'd eat up the clock on you, and if they didn't blow the thing at 25 seconds, they're getting 35, 40 seconds,
right.
And that's a big difference.
We're talking with Caldwell County Tiger football coach David Barnes on the Sideline Report this morning, and we'll be back right after this break on 1580 103.3 WPKY.
Here's your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast.
There is a chance of flurries today with increasing clouds throughout the day and a high of 37. Cloudy overnight with an overnight low around 11. Sunny skies tomorrow, but the high's only going to be 25. Mostly cloudy Friday night with an overnight low of 22. There's a chance of rain and snow on Saturday with a high of 38. A slight chance of rain and snow continues Saturday night with a low around 27. And rain and snow expected on Sunday with a high of 43. Flurries expected today, high of 37.
Your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast is brought to you by Brantley Furniture.
Happy 2019, Penny Rile Electric members. It's a new year, a clean slate. And you know what else? It's a great time to update your account information with Penny Rile Electric. Update by April 30th, and you'll automatically be eligible to win one of several prizes, like a 43-inch flat-screen TV and one of 20 $50 Penny Rile Electric bill credits. Update your account information with Penny Rile Electric today at any office or online at PRECC.com. Penny Rile Electric, your touchstone energy cooperative.
We would like you to be our guest on the morning show. Send us a message on Facebook or send an email to mistywpky@gmail.com telling us why you would like to be our next listener of the week. You could be our guest on Monday mornings at 8:30 or 8:45. You're invited to join me, Misty, in the morning and talk about your experiences in Princeton and Caldwell County. Join us and show your support for WPKY, Princeton, Fredonia, and all of Caldwell County.
Back on the Sideline Report on a Thursday morning at 1580 103.3 WPKY and online at WPKYonline.com. Talking with Caldwell County Tiger football coach David Barnes in the studio with us this morning, and we were just talking about the Super Bowl and one quarterback for the Rams, Jared Goff, and sort of a Caldwell County connection with the Rams quarterback.
Yeah, Tony Franklin, who's the offensive coordinator at Middle Tennessee, coached Goff when Tony was at Cal, and they had a really great relationship. Tony was able to go to the draft when he was drafted, and so I was in the room when he got drafted, and I know Tony was happy to be there. And I texted him Sunday, and he's all pumped up about him going to the Super Bowl, and Tony will be there. So that's something that I really be proud of.
Yeah, in Atlanta this year, and the Rams making it back to the Super Bowl, and the Patriots. A replay of a Super Bowl that went the wrong way if you're a Rams fan back in the day, but. Should be an interesting matchup in Super Bowl 53, and that's pretty neat that Caldwell County native actually helped prepare the quarterback of the Rams to go to the NFL and be a top draft pick and play in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I know Tony's excited about that. Anytime you see a player that goes on and achieves what he achieved, it's kind of like with Sindelar and Elijah getting Mr. Football that year and then going on to Purdue, and it makes you proud to see those guys be that successful.
Well, and I mentioned Eli Pepper earlier, now playing for the Lipscomb Bison's basketball team, but there's another former Tiger football player for you.
Yeah, he's having and playing basketball, but Eli he was a pretty good receiver in football, and it's good to see those kids go on and do well like that.
Mentioning Tigers this year that had good years, you had several make the All-State teams. On the Courier-Journal All-State team, Trell Riley was a first-team selection. Jameer Riley and Oliver Parker were honorable mention. On the AP team, Trell was first-team All-State. Jameer was second-team All-State. And then Joby Jaggers and Oliver Parker were honorable mention. And Trell actually got to play in the Border Bowl. The Kentucky team beat North Carolina 50-0, and Trell was selected to play in that game. So
he was selected, but he decided not to play.
Oh, did he not go?
Yeah.
But that's a pretty big deal to get picked for all those things. And when you look back at the season, 8-4, and all those guys making All-State, that's a pretty strong year for your team.
Yeah, it's always good to get those kids recognition, but football's a team thing, and it's a reflection on our whole team.
Looking ahead to next year, which will be here before you know it, August 23rd is the first game of the season. It'll be at Tiger Stadium against Christian County. Owensboro Apollo is here the next week. Do you have your scrimmages set for next year yet before those games?
We're going to do something with Madisonville. We haven't really lined that out exactly what we're going to do, but we are going to go up there. I'm not so sure we're going to scrimmage Butler County, but we've scrimmaged in the past so many times. But I do know we got something set up with Madisonville.
Will you play 2 scrimmages this year, or still just 1 scrimmage?
That's up in there yet. I haven't decided yet what we're going to do there.
Are you pretty happy with the way you got the schedule lined up next year? Apollo comes on the schedule and got those home dates early, but seems like another tough stretch.
Yeah, with Christian, and we got Hopkinsville back on. They're still on the schedule, and kept Union County on there, and Tree County. We moved them to the end of the year, at the end, and it's still a tough schedule. Took Henderson out there. Apollo's got some kids that are being. They got 2 kids who are being recruited by Division I schools, and that'll be a pretty good matchup.
The Tigers dropping back to Class 2A next year, and Mayfield game becomes a district game again. You mentioned Murray, Ballard Memorial, Fort Campbell, so it's going to be an interesting different look for the district next year.
Yeah, it goes back to with Murray coming back on the schedule, and back in the 70s when I played, Murray High was in our Mayfield, and I think my sophomore junior year. We ended up in a 3-way tie, and at that time, only one team went, and Mayfield or Murray, I think, went and won the state championship.
Got away from Murray there for a little while, and I think the Murray program had a few years there where they were down. Unfortunately, if you're a Caldwell fan, it looks like Murray's kind of on the way back, just in time to be back in the district again.
Yeah, that's the way it looks. And I know when we were at Paducah, had the deal where they honor the kids in the purchase area. They had Murray. They had literally the big kid, sophomore, the D lineman. He's the only sophomore made that team this year, and he's going to be a pretty good player.
A lot of people already talking about Mayfield though, and saying that they'll be in line to play for a state championship again. So nothing really new with Mayfield.
It doesn't matter what district you're in; they're always going to be there. And we've played them every year since '06. And it's just hasn't had it wasn't a district game, and now then to me, it becomes more of a game where it's district. It's got district implications there instead of playing them the last game of the year.
If you look over the last 10 or 12 years, Caldwell County probably has had as much success against Mayfield as anybody, but hardly anybody has much success against them.
Well, Coach Morris and the guys, they do a great job down there, and those kids, they know in that program they're expected to win, and and they got good athletes, and they got a good feeder program, and but the thing with them is that they're expected to play 15 games, and that's a big deal for them.
Yeah. Again, the big thing coming up this fall for football is the new playoff format. Instead of playing teams from another district in the first 2 rounds, teams will now be playing teams from their own district. And then after that, that rating percentage index will come in. The first time Kentucky has ever used any kind of computer formula to determine any kind of playoff formulas as far as I know. And that'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. And as Coach Barnes mentioned, some of the coaches trying to get that changed. I know a lot of the coaches would like to go back. I really liked playing the other district because there was sort of an unknown factor there, and you weren't playing a team that, as you mentioned earlier, that you had just seen a couple of weeks earlier.
And to me, if you play in your district and then you turn around and you're playing somebody that you played with, like it could be a two-week span between those two, and it's a lot. To me, it's a lot better to be able to go out of the district and play somebody you haven't seen, and then the regional final could be a rematch of somebody within your district, but hopefully we'll get some changes made there.
Going to be interesting to see how that all figures out. Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming by this morning and
appreciate you, Todd.
What all's going on, and look forward to hearing how this finally plays out.
Hopefully we'll hear something this week.
That's Caldwell County Tiger football coach David Barnes joining us on the Sideline Report this morning. Don't forget, busy night at the Cab Gym tonight. It's Caldwell County and Lyon County. Girls start things at 6 o'clock. The guys will play at 7:30. If you can't make it out there, Dennis Stevens and Bob Hayes will have the call tonight on 1580 and 103.3 beginning at 5:45. Live video stream of both games will also be available tonight. You can tune in and watch the game at WPKYonline.com. Again, thanks to Chris George for joining us this morning, and thanks to Caldwell County Tiger football coach David Barnes for coming into the studio. That's going to wrap up our show for today. Thanks for listening to the Sideline Report here on 1580 103.3 WPKY.
Serving Caldwell County since 1950. We're 1580 103.3 WPKY Princeton.
ABC News, I'm Jim Ryan. The man accused of killing 5 people in a rampage at a Florida bank has been in court this morning. Zephan Zaver is facing 5 counts of premeditated murder. President Trump is agreeing to push back his State of the Union address until the partial government shutdown is over. ABC's Mary Bruce says the president made the announcement in late-night tweets.
The president saying that it is the speaker's prerogative and that he will do the address when the shutdown is over. Trump tweeting that there is no venue that can compete with the history, tradition, and importance of the House chamber.
The Senate today is expected to vote on a pair of bills that could end the shutdown. One, backed by Republicans, includes billions for a border wall. The other, backed by the Democrats, does not. Neither is expected to pass. The FBI is joining a growing group of searchers trying to find a 3-year-old boy who vanished from his grandmother's North